my testimony is helpful to the important work of the committee to find justice for the victims.
That's right. Something you may have been waiting for if you've been following the Jeffrey Epstein saga. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates just sat down for an interview with the House Oversight Committee. What did he say? What does it mean when you look at the released Epstein files? Let's get into it. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Oh, by the way, before we get into this, did you know that Father's Day is like right around the corner? And if you're looking for a gift, I feel like a lot of you are, if you're looking for a gift for all the dads out there, I want you to meet the Chef IQ Sense Smart Meat Thermometer. This is the secret to stress-free restaurant-level cooking. So whether you're a seasoned grill master, you're just trying to throw on some steaks for the summer, the Smart Thermometer, it is a game changer. There's no more overcooking. There's no more, I think this might be done. No. Chef IQ tells you exactly when your meat is ready every step of the way. You just insert the wireless probe, you select your preferences, then you just hang out, you relax while you wait for the app alerts without having to, hover over the grill. It works with ovens, smokers, stovetops, air fryers, and it's for every protein, from prime rib to wings to salmon. Seriously, this Father's Day, it's time to raise the stakes, no pun intended, and cook with confidence. Use code SIDEBAR for 40% off site-wide at chefiq.com. I have never victimized anyone. Those were the words of Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates yesterday as he went up to Capitol Hill and testified, sat down for an interview about Jeffrey Epstein. And this just added a whole new dimension to this story. This is a big deal. He's arguably one of the most high-profile people to be questioned in the Epstein case. Now, there have been other ones that we'll talk about, but this is significant. And I do want to get into what he reportedly said, even though, to be clear, this was a closed-door session. We don't have the transcript. We don't have the audio. We don't have the video at the time of this broadcast. But what we do have is reporting on what he said. And we're going to put it into context with what the Epstein files themselves reveal about Bill Gates' apparent relationship or connection or association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we know that the House Oversight Committee has been investigating the Jeffrey Epstein story, right? The deceased financier who is set to face a federal sex trafficking trial in New York before he died in his jail cell back in 2019. The question now is, who knew what? What was Epstein up to? Did anyone help, facilitate, know about, encourage, aid him in what he was accused of doing? Is the system a problem? Did the system allow him to operate and to do what he was accused of doing? Was he given any kind of protection? Is there anyone else out there who needs to be held accountable? And when it comes to Bill Gates, it has been reported for quite some time that he and Epstein had a connection. There is even at least one photo of them together. Gates' name has come up most recently in the Epstein files that were released as part of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which I'm going to get into. Now, to be clear, and I have to be extremely clear about this, okay? An association, a picture together, an email correspondence, it doesn't mean that someone committed a crime or was aware of illegal activity. Got to be clear about that. There's nothing that suggests that Bill Gates committed a crime or knew about illegal activity. He has not been charged with a crime. But let me just get into what he said on Capitol Hill. Again, significant. And actually, we did get this snippet from Bill Gates before he even went in for his interview behind closed doors. Take a look.
Glad to be here voluntarily to testify to help with the committee's work. I'll start with an opening statement in the hearing room. I hope my testimony is helpful to the important work of the committee to find justice for the victims. Thank you.
So what did he say? Well, according to reporting from multiple outlets, because again, no audio, no video, no transcript has been released at this time, Gates said to the committee, quote, "I never witnessed nor had any indication that Epstein was engaged in ongoing criminal conduct. I never went to his island, his ranch, or his Florida home. I have never victimized anyone. While he may have sought to foster a personal relationship, I was never interested in that and never reciprocated. I learned Epstein had become aware of sensitive information about my personal life, including the fact that I had been unfaithful in my marriage. These affairs had nothing to do with my interactions with Epstein, but they were painful for my family." And to be clear, there's nothing that conflicts that, right? There's no definitive proof that Gates ever visited any of those properties. There's no evidence that Gates ever sexually abused anyone. And this idea of blackmail is interesting because Gates did admit to having extramarital affairs. Quote, as the public can now see, based on what has been released in the files, Epstein was working to use information about my infidelities, in addition to many lies that he layered on top, to pressure me to re-engage with him. He was unsuccessful in this effort, but it shows some of the ways he tried to leverage his interactions with me to further his agenda. And Gates acknowledged that meeting with Epstein was a, quote, grave error in judgment. I should never have met with Epstein in the first place. Now, in terms of what that relationship actually was, Gates reportedly said, quote, my interactions with Epstein began with a limited number of preliminary meetings, 3 in 2011 and 2 in 2012, during which I talked about the goals of my work. We began more extensive conversations in 2013 and 2014. The discussions focused on identifying potential giving structures, such as donor-advised funds, and how to enroll individuals he claimed were interested in making significant contributions. So this is all about philanthropy, right? Now, Gates reportedly told lawmakers that it wasn't as if he was friends with Epstein, right? They didn't socialize. They didn't hang out beyond dinners, again, what he claims was about philanthropic work. And he also made it clear that there were no girls or young women that were around. And so just to clarify about this, Gates reportedly said that he was using Epstein to secure wealthy donations for his philanthropic work in public health. And when it seemed like that wasn't going to happen, that it wasn't going to go anywhere, that's when he claims he cut ties with Epstein. And then that is when he says Epstein fired back, tried to use Gates' affairs to pressure him into re-engaging with him. Here's the big issue, okay? This is the big problem for Bill Gates. And we've had this conversation with other people before, right? Gates, like others, had a connection with Jeffrey Epstein after Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to sex crimes charges in Florida in that whole 2008 sweetheart plea deal, guilty of solicitation of a minor for prostitution. That was known. So, of course, the question is, why did you maintain contact with him? Why did you even have contact with him? Now, Gates reportedly told the committee, quote, I recall being aware that Epstein had faced prior legal issues, but I did not fully understand the extent of the crimes he committed. I accepted the introduction without applying the scrutiny I should have. And what's interesting about that is that the Wall Street Journal reported that in a 2014 email, there was this medical expert, this associate who had worked for Bill Gates. Her name was Melanie Walker, and somebody who was apparently friends with Epstein, that she warned Bill Gates in an email to keep, quote, a healthy distance for anything of a personal nature from Epstein. And that Epstein, quote, appeals to people's weaknesses and proclivities. So obviously you see why this raises questions. What has been the reaction so far to this testimony? Well, according to several Democratic members of the committee, Gates was cooperative. But then you have GOP Representative Tim Burchett, who described the questioning of Bill Gates as, quote, intense. You have Democratic Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, who said that Gates was, quote, combative and, quote, not terribly forthcoming or candid. Representative Robert Garcia said Gates made a, quote, horrific judgment call by associating with Jeffrey Epstein, and also said Gates was, quote, answering the questions. What about Representative Suhas Subramanian? Said, quote, there has been a lot of apologies from Gates. He is sorry he associated with Epstein so much, but in the end, what is done is done. Democratic Representative Melanie Stansberry said Gates acknowledged maintaining contact with Epstein because he thought that his relationship, his connection with Epstein was a, quote, narrow relationship and, quote, an acceptable means to access wealthy donors. But then there's also this Bill Gates spokesperson who released a statement on Wednesday, and I'm going to read it to you. It says, quote, as Mr. Gates has consistently stated and reiterated to the House Oversight Committee, he never witnessed nor had any indication of Epstein's ongoing criminal conduct. He never visited Epstein's island, his ranch, or Florida home, and has never victimized anyone. When asked about photos in which he appeared with women in Epstein's orbit, Mr. Gates noted that none of them participated in his meetings with Epstein. They were not introduced to him by name or role and had no substantive interaction with him beyond being asked by Epstein to stand for a photograph. Mr. Gates expressed sadness for the suffering endured by anyone harmed by Epstein's crimes. Now it becomes a question of what are they going to do with this information? What are they going to do with these answers? And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I want to go back and put this into context, right? I want to go back and put what he said into contacts with the Epstein files and see what the Gates mentions are. Keep all of this in mind, okay? Now I'm going to start with what could be considered the most unusual one. You have this draft email, looks like it's from 2013, potentially one that Epstein had sent or saved to himself. And the argument is, was he sending this to, or planning to send this to, an advisor who wanted to leave the Gates Foundation? I'm going to read it to you verbatim. Quote, "Dear Bill, I cannot believe that you have chosen to disregard our friendship developed over the last 6 years. I am aware that accidents happen. It is how each of us has chosen to deal with this unfortunate event that has me dismayed beyond comprehension. You have decided to discharge me from my job. Had Larry, your PR person, told me that I engaged in morally inappropriate behavior, asked me to be the major actor in a cover-up so that you can maintain the reputation that you have worked so hard to achieve, asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement, and have categorically told me that we cannot have any direct ongoing business relationship, in total disregard for its impact on the public perception of my reputation, I will have to diligently avoid the truth, tell people that Bill will not invest with me, and craft an answer that suits your needs. But you did agree to send you a letter of recommendation should a future employer ask for one. You have told me that Melinda insists on me not communicating with you unless Larry is copied or present. Though you have consistently maintained that I could not have done a better job and that I was underpaid compared to my contribution, you then, beyond all sense of fairness and frankly decency, said that as generous compensation for keeping the Gates reputation intact, you would let me keep what we agreed I had already owned, the investment pieces, and give me 2 years severance. Similar to Christine Turner, another casualty. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would have said, Boris, this is not your fault. I confess to Melinda you didn't. It was in a moment of weakness, and I will do anything within my power to make it right for you. I have more money than anyone needs, and I assure you I will structure something so that you will not be penalized for my error. Lucky for me, I have enough money to provide to you. Though it will not heal the injury, it will make you secure in your future. In addition, I will bend over backwards to make sure your next career is rewarding and on an upswing. I appreciate the fact that this drastically alters your plans, and I'm very aware of the career path you gave up to join the foundation. I am very sorry, but as I believe time heals all wounds, this will eventually pass. In that regard, I suggest I buy you the house that you so had your heart set on, and in addition to 5 years of severance, we'll buy you out of the investment contract. We had agreed 30 to 40% of a $100 million partnership for $30 million in today's dollars, terms and conditions to be agreed. That's what I would have done had I been in your shoes. What I did receive, however, was an unfriendly, strongly worded email telling me how employable I am and that I should not look to you for any significant financial help in the future. To add insult to the injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD. You request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to redacted, as that is another topic that must remain between the two of us. In return for all of these requests, which I would have done without a second thought, I am not to attend meetings with Melinda. I should continue to provide you the same level of service and dedication that I have done so diligently until you are ready to discard me and our friendship. So, assuming this was from Epstein, he seems to be claiming that Bill Gates was seeking treatment for an STD, that he was going to give what he allegedly had to Melinda. And again, to be clear, we don't know if this was sent. We don't know the circumstances behind this. We really don't have a lot more information, but there is this one, this other communication. I think it's the same idea. I think this is a draft email from Epstein that he sent to himself, again, back in 2013. Quote, I have decided to resign my position effective immediately with BG3 and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I have not come to this decision quickly or without a great deal of thought. During the past few weeks, I have been caught up in a severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. I have the greatest respect for my friend of 7 years and wish them both well. In my role as his right hand, I had been asked on multiple occasions and in hindsight wrongly acquiesced into participating in things that have ranged from the morally inappropriate to the ethically unsound, and had been repeatedly asked to do other things that get near and potentially over the line into the illegal. Though it was kindly suggested that I make a transition to a new position after my 6 years of service, and that Bill would, in his words, give me a generous package, I feel it would be dishonest to myself and my future. From helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, to facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, to being asked to provide Adderall for bridge tournaments, I feel I owe it to my friends and future colleagues to admit a moral failure, to ask forgiveness, and to move on with my life. Now, to be clear, we don't know exactly who authored this, whether it was ever sent. The allegations themselves are uncorroborated, unsupported, unverified, but an argument that you can see being made is maybe Epstein was upset at Gates, right? They maybe had a falling out, and because look what he's allegedly talking about, right? Look what he's allegedly using or planning to use against Bill Gates. Now, a spokesperson for Bill Gates had previously rejected these allegations that were laid out, saying, quote, "These claims are absolutely absurd and completely false." And by the way, earlier this year, NPR's Wild Card podcast, it aired an interview with Melinda Gates, so Bill Gates' ex-wife. The two had divorced in 2021. And the interview apparently includes Melinda's response to her ex being mentioned so many times in the Epstein files. Quote, "For me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because it brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. Whatever questions remain there of what, I can't even begin to know all of it. Those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me. I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls? At least for me, I've been able to move on in life, and I hope there's some justice for those now women." Going back to the Epstein files, there are actual direct connections between Epstein and Gates in these files, okay? Like for this one, 2017, email from Epstein to Gates reads, quote, "Bill, I know you're in Australia. Hope you're having fun. I heard from an old friend of yours and thought you and I should speak." There's an email chain between Epstein and Gates back in 2014 where they discussed charity funding called DAF, D-A-F, or Donor Advised Fund. Starts with Epstein writing Gates, "Feedback?" Gates writes back, "I enjoyed the breakfast a lot. All of the attendees were interesting people. We managed to talk about philanthropy enough to get their reaction without putting them on the spot too much. It is pretty clear to me that someone young like Josh wants he and his family to have a more hands-on approach than delegating 60% of giving to a set of causes we manage. I had less of a sense of how Ron thinks about his giving. He might be a candidate for the large DAF approach where the foundation helps with some of the giving. Reed is always fascinating to talk to. He's also young enough and managing his work without extreme hours, so he will want to be more hands-on. So I think the breakfast was a success in terms of relationships I value and will continue to spend time on. In terms of the DAF, I don't think we have any people at this point who will move to do something soon. It is a good idea, but it won't come together with 4 to 6 partners anytime soon." Now that might be something why if you hear Gates say, hey, then Jeffrey Epstein was pushing back on me or pressuring me because I didn't really see maybe any more value to being with him. I can't get the funds that I'm looking for. Now, Epstein actually replied, this was his advice. "As usual, everyone liked you a lot, each surprised by how knowledgeable you were about many various subjects. However, not one of them understood what the DAF idea meant to you. What they heard was that you would quote, let them contribute to things like very special diseases, small worms or such that never gets funding, and or if they like, they could give a portion of their money to women's health issue, but no more than 60% of their giving, and that's it. Sorry." And then he provides Gates with suggestions. For example, quote, "My suggestions. 1, the idea first and foremost is about sharing your experience, your judgment, your values, your ideas. That requires asking them questions, i.e., what are you interested in? How many kids do you have? What do you think? Etc. This is what we're thinking of doing that is good for you and us, not merely good for women, Africans, uneducated kids, etc. Here is how it might work. Here is how it might be beneficial for you now and for your estate. Here is how you can magnify your current impact in things that matter for you. Bill Gates will be your partner, your friend, your colleague in the giving arena. We can do things together. You can save taxes, or someone else, lawyer, can do that part. I believe with more credibility than you in this area. We can partner, enjoy the process, etc., do good, do better, etc. Conversations on philanthropy without results or just more conversations. Yes, they all want to have a hand in where their money goes. Of course, they worked hard for it, but properly structured and presented, the DAF provides more benefits than burdens in every arena, and a DAF with you is the pinnacle of their giving lives. The example you gave the group of the past was only one in which friends on who you personally called gave you $100 million each for your polio program. Not what these guys would do even after being waterboarded. 2014. This exchange. So Epstein, writes Gates, quote, one of the techie wealth holders suggested my version of the DAF was in his mind like cloud computing for the giving world. All the admin and storage is done in the giving cloud, and all you need is one piece of paper confirming your transfer to receive your tax benefits, no filings, employees, etc. Gates writes back, quote, it is a good analogy. It is clearer to me now than before, and it could be a great thing. This week is a bit crazy with strategy reviews and Microsoft stuff, but after it, I will get to see if anyone at the foundation sees any issues with sitting down with some people and asking if they would be interested. I have a trip to DC in March where I can probably go up to New York City at the end, so assuming everything looks good and it works for you to get a small group together there to discuss if that could be the next step. By the way, remember that Boris that I mentioned before? Seemingly Boris Nikolic, a reported biotech venture capitalist? Well, listen to what Gates wrote in 2010, or reportedly wrote in 2010. Quote, after talking with Melinda, I've decided to leave New York City after the Pete Peterson meeting. So this means I won't have time to do another meeting, and I won't be able to do the dinner with Jeff Epstein. I was looking forward to the dinner. Nathan had agreed with you that I would enjoy meeting with him and that it is a fine thing to do so on another trip. I will try and do it. So again, that was to Boris, and then Boris appears to forward that to Epstein. What about this? A Google Calendar invite from back in 2012 that reads Bill Gates in Norway, Friday, July 6, 6 to 6:30 a.m. Just to be clear again, the Gates Foundation has said it didn't move forward with Epstein's fund and never transferred any money to Epstein, quote, on the basis of Epstein's claims that he could mobilize significant philanthropic resources for global health and development. A small number of foundation employees interacted with Epstein to try to secure this potential funding. Ultimately, the foundation did not pursue any collaboration with Epstein, and no fund was ever created. Now, to put this all into context once again, Gates' testimony comes after other big hitters, right? Bill and Hillary Clinton were questioned. Epstein's lawyer was questioned. Epstein's accountant was questioned. Most recently, Leslie Groff, his executive assistant for years, was questioned by lawmakers. Her name comes up a lot in the Epstein files. She told the House Oversight and Reform Committee, quote, I believe that my testimony will dispel the false notion that because of my employment with Epstein, I must have knowingly enabled or conspired with him to commit his evil acts. Nothing could be further from the truth. Mr. Epstein was, in hindsight, a master manipulator and deceiver who separated his legitimate life from his secret life as an abuser and made sure that as his secretary, those two worlds did not collide. She claimed that she never had a social relationship with him, never flew on his jet, never visited him after he was arrested in 2019, did not go to his parties, did not go to Epstein Island. This was interesting because according to FBI notes, Groff reportedly had told investigators, quote, from the beginning, massage was a part of Epstein's day. They were normal appointments. Groff thought Maxwell told her Epstein had to have a massage every day. Groff's job was to make appointments. To Groff, making massage appointments was just another appointment she had to make for Epstein, and that Epstein would call Groff, quote, in the morning and say something like, call redacted and see if she can do a massage at 4. So was he insulating Groff from what he was accused of doing? Epstein's personal assistant, Sarah Kellen, also spoke with lawmakers. She said, quote, he groomed me, sexually and psychologically abused me, controlled me, manipulated me, dominated me, and gaslit me until I could no longer tell which thoughts were mine and which were his. After months of unpaid labor, he instructed me to draw him a bath on his island, then ordered me to undress and get in with him, and he said, the job is yours, now you just have to keep it. He then pulled me onto his bed and made clear what keeping the job required. Only after I submitted to his sexual abuse did the paychecks begin. He knew everyone in the fashion industry, academics, finance, government, powerful world leaders, dictators, and everyone in between. From the beginning, he showed me that he was more powerful than basically anyone in the world. Jeffrey was able to fool and manipulate the brightest minds in the world. Us victims didn't stand a chance. So now what happens? What happens with this testimony? What happens with Gates' testimony? Well, look, all this testimony is on the record. It's memorialized. It's creating an understanding of what Epstein was up to, maybe a clearer, more comprehensive picture than we would have known or knew from Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, right, her criminal trial in New York. And remember, the House Oversight Committee, they're not a law enforcement agency. They don't have a law enforcement function. They can't arrest people. They can't charge people. They can refer matters for criminal investigation or prosecution to the DOJ, but they're in a legislative capacity. They have to have a legislative purpose. So can they create laws? Can they create legislation, reforms, new laws that create a sense of accountability for Epstein's victims, or ensure that no one like Jeffrey Epstein can be allowed to operate and flourish in the future? In terms of what's next, look, Democrats, they want President Donald Trump to testify, given his own references in the Epstein files, his past connection with the disgraced financier. Ranking member James Comer wants Epstein attorney Alan Dershowitz to sit for an interview. There's even a push to have acting AG Todd Blanche come in as well. So we shall see what happens next. And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. See you next time, everybody.